What's up, Elevate? I'm Joe. I'm an intern here at Elevate Student Ministry, and I'm with Pastor Cody Ray. Over the last couple days, we've been sending out some content about fear, how to combat fear, how to look at fear with a biblical perspective, and we've been doing that in preparation for today, because today we're going to have the opportunity to actually have conversations with our small group leaders through something called Zoom. That's something we've been talking about. By this point, your small group leader has definitely reached out to you. We've talked to you about what that looks like, how to get that, how to get set up. So we want to kind of facilitate a discussion, create a guide for you to kind of look back on and talk about this content we've been releasing and what it looks like to navigate this issue. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to ask Pastor Cody some questions, and we're just going to go through this topic. So the first question I have is this. This is something that I've been thinking about. We talk a lot about having God be the focus more than fear, right? Because fear is easy to focus on, but we want to center around God with our life. And so what I would like to ask is, what are some practical ways that we can focus on God? What are some practical, concrete ways where I can say I am putting more emphasis on God in my life than fear?
So one of the things that I've been doing for the last several weeks now is just doing a crash, reading the Bible. I'm working on reading the Bible cover to cover within 40 days.
Wow.
And so it's not, let's look at every little detail. It's more of, let's look at a broad picture of what's happening. And so what I found myself doing is getting to different stories, a lot of the popular ones, a lot of ones that aren't as popular, but I'm seeing a lot of myself in these stories and a lot of the situations in these stories, and I'm able to relate what's happening to me currently with what happened back then and how God was moving back then, and through that God has been speaking to me, and I leave those sessions, if you will, that time with God in the morning and in the evening as I'm reading, just finding myself just fueled up and have this extra power that isn't normally there without it. When I get into those times where it's not as much content in the Bible or not as much time with God, you get weak and I get weak. But through these last few weeks, I'm finding myself just really loving what's happening. And one thing for me, and we talked about it in the last few days, 2 Timothy 1:7. I mean, this is one of my favorite verses. It's something that really changed my life when I was first exposed to it, when I first read it. Let me just read to you. For God so... I'm reading John 3:16. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. So if we can just read that over and over and over and over again, we'll figure out that God has not given us a spirit of fear. And if we believe that everything that God does is good, then when fear comes, we won't be as susceptible to, wait a second, what's happening right now? I need to freak out because everybody else is freaking out.
Right.
I can say, no. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. The fear that's around me can't be from God because He's only given me power, love, and self-discipline. So I need to train myself, self-discipline. I need to ask God for help. I need to do these things and say, God, give me the power that you promised me. Give me the love that you promised me. Give me the discipline that you promised me. Because I know that you fulfill your promises, and I know that you're going to come through just as you have before. Because I've been through some things before, you've been through some things before, you've been through some things before, and He's going to come through again. It's what He does every time.
Right.
And so sometimes we just need to step back, take a big view of what's happening and say, wait a second, I haven't been through this situation before, but I've been through something similar. David said the same thing to us when he's going to fight Goliath. He said, I've never fought this giant before, but I have fought a lion. I have fought a bear before. So I have some experience in this. This situation looks a little bit different, but I've been through this and God got me through that before. I know that he's going to get me through this one.
Yeah.
And so we just need to remind ourselves of things that we've been through. Sometimes it's you remind me of some of the things that you've been through, and you get to fill me with courage.
Yeah,
because of what you've been through. I get to now use your experience for my own life.
For sure.
And vice versa.
Yeah. So you're saying that you get to actually, you get into the Word and you get to look at the Word and say, this is a grid for everything that I'm going to see. So instead of like going on Facebook or Instagram and using that as like the basis for comparison, like you go back and you say, all right, 2 Timothy 1:7 says that God gives me a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. So if what I'm seeing right now isn't power, love, and self-discipline, it's not of God. Right. So you're looking back and you're saying this is what is true, and then you're measuring it to the world. Because something that's easy for me, I don't know about you guys, but it's easy for me to go on Facebook, start scrolling on Instagram, whatever I'm on, and start using that as like my concrete basis for this is my context. Like this is how I understand the world. So then I look at the world through the lens of the person on Instagram freaking out and buying all the toilet paper because they're scared, instead of, like you said, just grounding yourself in the Word and saying this is...
It's funny how we can watch the news, we can read the reports and all that stuff in our homes, and then when we go out to Walmart, it's not as crazy as what it seems to be happening in the news and the stories that are coming, the videos that are coming in. And so we just need sometimes to get a bigger picture, get a bigger worldview of what's happening.
For sure.
I'm not saying this isn't serious. I'm not saying that we just be crazy and go out there and whatever. But I'm saying let's step back and let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah. That's actually a great segue, because I was interested. I wanted to ask you this. So you're talking about how we need to see the world as it is, but from a kingdom perspective, right? The world is like this coronavirus, this thing that we're dealing with. It's a big deal. It's an issue. A lot of people have had their lives really affected by it, and we don't want to diminish that.
Right.
But we also know that we are from the kingdom. And so we know how the story ends. We've read the rest of the Bible. We know that God has this in control. So how do you, in your mind, how do you balance the tension between, yes, what we're dealing with is serious, and we don't want to downplay it and tell people that it's not, because it is serious, and we need to take precautions, and we need to honor the government and follow what they're telling us to do, but we also need to maintain the perspective of the Bible that says, you know what, God is in control at the end of the day. God does have it at the end of the day. It's going to be okay. So how do you maintain that perspective that's balanced? How do you balance that tension?
Yeah. I don't think we're going to go out and say, I love Jesus, which means there are no germs in the world.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be smart.
For sure.
We're going to wash our hands. We're going to do everything we can to stay clean, stay healthy, and all of those things. At the same time, we're not going to look at the things that are happening and think, oh no, we're stuck in this forever. We're stuck in this valley like we talked about the other day forever.
Yeah.
Because we know that God is with us through the valley. We know that we're not setting up camp in the valley, and we know that we are going to get to the mountaintop with Him. It might look different than it did before. It might not ever go back to the way it was before. It might be a new normal once we come through this valley, and we're going to have to be okay with that. But we do know that no matter what happens on the other side, God is always going to provide enough for us. I think when the Israelites were in the desert, every day they had plenty of food to eat. They had their manna. They had enough for that day, and when the day ended, it went away. And then the next day came, and they had plenty for them that day. And so it was just this, God is going to provide everything that we need for each and individual day. And so when we have the foundation of, God, you're enough for me. God, you are everything for me. I'm going to, be smart. I'm going to plan. I'm going to do those things. But I'm going to know that if everything goes downhill, I know that you're still going to be with me, and I know that you're going to take care of me no matter what.
Yeah. That's a really, it's a tough tension, because one thing, you said it perfectly, what we don't want to do is we don't want to claim Jesus and then say that nothing of this world matters, because the Bible says that we are in this world but not of it.
Right.
So we don't want to overemphasize either one. We are in this world, so we do need to take precautions. We need to honor the government's orders. We need to not forsake washing our hands and avoid germs and that kind of thing. But my tendency, I don't know about you, my tendency is to lean towards in the world. That's what I struggle with. So I know the Bible says that I'm in the world but not of it. But my tendency is to say, oh my gosh, I'm in the world. This is all ending. This is over. Say your goodbyes. Buy up all the toilet paper. Like, I don't judge those people because I feel for them. Sure. I feel that urge in me. So it's so important. It goes back to what you were saying earlier. So when I get to that point, I need to say, okay, what do you say, God? Like, what is your foundational principle that is the grid for all of this?
Yeah.
And then you go back to 2 Timothy 1:7, and it says, you have a spirit of power and love and self-discipline, and it's hard to be scared when you hear God, the one who created you, talking about you like that.
Yeah.
That's just...
Yeah, sometimes I think we forget to seek God, and it's a seek God and everything will be brought to you. Seek first his kingdom, and he'll take care of everything. We don't have to worry about, in that context, he's talking about food that we're going to eat or clothes that we're going to wear.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that. When we seek his kingdom first, everything else will be taken care of. And so that's what we do. We're not also, like, we're not going to be so spiritual that we're no earthly good. Like,
that's good.
We need to, yes, spend time with God, read our Bibles, do all those things, but we're not going to do that at the expense of our families, at the expense of other people, at the expense of relationships, because God is in all of those things too. He wants us to play on sports teams. He wants us to play video games. He wants us to do all of these things. He wants us to eat and fellowship with each other. And so we want to be part of the world that way. But we are going to live and we're going to demonstrate Jesus in all of those contexts. And so we're going to seek God's kingdom first. We're going to seek God's voice first, his mind first, and we're just going to do whatever he says in that moment, in that conversation that we just had, and we're going to live that way. And that's when people are going to say, how can you live with such calmness, such peace, such hopefulness in a time like this?
Yeah.
And it's because I stay connected.
Right. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to maintain a perspective that is balancing the tensions between, yeah, I'm in the world, but I also understand that God has this. He has this in control, and he's going to take care of this, and we're going to be able to get through this. So we take the proper precautions while also understanding that God is the sovereign force in all of this. He's the one that has it. So this is the last thing that I wanted to ask you about. This is something that's so important all the time, but it needs to be emphasized right now. We talk about at Elevate, but at Connection, especially everywhere, we talk about connecting. We talk about connecting with God, connecting with others, connecting in ministry. And one of the biggest ways, not the only way, but one of the biggest ways that we connect with others is through our services. So like Sunday mornings, coming together, connecting, praying for each other, worshiping together, just getting into the Word together. Wednesday nights we have the gathering where we just connect and we get into the Word, we worship together. And Sunday nights at Elevate is, I mean, you guys know it's amazing. People come to Elevate and they leave a different person because God impacts them. There's just a special impact that he has in that room when we're all together and we're just worshiping together. And that's amazing. But right now, we don't have the luxury of that. Right now, we don't have the luxury to come together for a formal service and have corporate worship together and pray for each other and lay hands on each other. We don't have that right now. We can't do that right now because we want to honor the government. And not only that, but we want to protect ourselves and others. Mm-hmm. We want to be smart about this. So being that we're not really able to have that transformative experience right now together, what are some practical ways or some practical mindsets that we should go into this with so that we can connect together? What are some ways that we can connect to each other even with the absence of a formal Elevate service?
Yeah, and that's something that we're figuring out one day at a time. Best avenues, best tools to use to make that happen. Later on tonight, we are going to be still having our small group meetings. It's just going to look different. It's going to be on a screen through Zoom. So again, if you want to be part of that, connect with your small group leader. If you're not connected yet, if this is your first time being part of Elevate, email us, elevate@connectionyork.com. We'll get you hooked up to a small group, and we'll get you a time when your group is meeting tonight. So we're going to try it that way and see what happens there. But we're going to be on social media. We're going to try different things there. And yeah, things are going to be different. There is a difference when we're all together in one room, worshiping together, hearing the message together. But our God is so big. He's not confined to one room. He can move through the internet. I've seen him move through screens before. And so he's going to do the same thing. You mentioned we're going to honor our government. We love our state, we love our city, we love our country, we love our world. And so we're going to honor our leadership there. We're going to keep praying for them. We're going to keep listening to what they have to say and go with the guidance that God is giving them. We believe that God put those people in place, put them in the leadership, and so we're going to honor what they say and navigate how we do ministry after that. And so this week, we put out a few of those videos. We're going to connect tonight on Zoom. We might have more ideas after this and ways of doing things. Things might change in the world by that time. We just don't know. And that's part of being patient and not overreacting to the unknown.
Right.
And so we believe that our God is big, that he's going to work, and that he's going to still impact us, talk to us, touch us in ways that are just going to be a little bit different. But at the same time, we're encouraging our students, we're encouraging you guys, our team, to stay connected. We're not going to use this as an excuse to not be connected. So we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone some. Maybe some have never used FaceTime before or a webcam or anything like that. So it might be awkward for a minute. But we're just going to get over that, and we're going to push through that fear, that anxiety, that what is it going to look like, or what am I going to sound like, because we want to be with each other. And right now, that is the best way that we know how.
Yeah, it's a developing situation where we're at right now. No one knows the answers, but what I have seen, what's encouraging is so many churches are just being creative. Mm-hmm. Like they're just thinking outside the box. There's technology now that God has given us that enables us to do things that past generations would have had to forsake in the gathering.
Right.
They would have had to say, church is over for a while. You're going to have to sit in your holy huddles in your room and pray and wait for it all to end. We don't have to do that anymore. Right. Like we have the ability to connect. Tonight we're going to be on Zoom together, and we're going to be in discussion together. We're going to gather. We're going to pray together. Yeah. We're going to virtually through the screen lay hands on each other. We are going to be together even if we're not able to be together, and that's just an immense blessing, and it would be a shame for us not to use it to the best of our ability. So this was just awesome. This was a great conversation. If you heard this and anything stuck out to you, just remember it, think on it, write it down, because tonight you're going to be able to have a conversation with your small group leader through Zoom, and you're going to go through some questions. We've given every small group leader, they have a discussion guide, and they're going to work through that with you and just connect with you, talk to you, just spend some time with you through that avenue. And so you'll be able to use this as a template for that conversation. You'll be able to reflect on the past messages. If you haven't heard them, go back and listen to them from the last couple days and just get some insight so that tonight you can have a insightful and good conversation and connect with your group leader. So thanks a lot, Pastor Cody. This was super exciting. We'll see you guys soon.